Good morning from Hopalong Hollow. This is Jerry, and I am going to take you into a section of the garden that I don't really want anyone to see because it is so ugly. I always hope that if anyone comes to see my gardens, they don't walk around to the back of the house, because if they did, they might find this mess. It's pretty bad. As you can see, we've got all kinds of broken concrete here on this little courtyard. The garden is just pretty pathetic. The crabgrass is taken over, the couch grass, just a section there with nothing growing at all. This section here is disastrous. Let's face it, this is just plain ugly. Everybody probably has a little section like this in your yard you'd like to get rid of. The swampy area on the hill, whenever it rains, this just turns to muck. So there's something that must be done with that. This is pretty tricky here. But I think with my own methods of Hopalong Hollowscaping and using just what I have around here, I might be able to turn this into something halfway decent without spending too much money. Hopefully no money at all. Just what I've got. I'm going to start out by digging all these free plants, because these little daisies have blown seeds into these cracks between the stones. I'm going to dig up those daisies. I'm going to start there after I've dug up all this couch grass in this garden, and I'm going to transplant those little daisies into this one. They love sun, they're really pretty, and that will give us a good start. And then we'll see what we can do with this mess. And instead of this being a horrible, dreadful corner, I'm hoping to turn this into something pretty delightful. So we'll go from there. Hello, you two. This is Hamish and Alice. Alice wants some cat food, don't you, Alice? Come on, you two. So here we are, June 1st, and this little section in the courtyard is looking quite a bit different than it was when last I filmed it. As you can see, the plants have come in, the daylilies are blooming, the crepe myrtle is on the rise, and this courtyard looks slightly better, in fact quite a bit better than it did before, with the addition of potted plants, a lot of little succulents, sedums, lavenders, and herbs in this section. The garden behind it has begun to bloom. I moved some plants into this garden, such as the butterfly bush back here. I took it from another garden where it wasn't doing well, and I moved that spirea bush right there, the pink, bright pink one. And I used to think this was a weed. It's called, and it probably might be, but it's actually a native plant called fleabane, which has medicinal purposes, and actually it turns into quite a lovely little flower. So I decided not to pull it up. I'm just going to give it the benefit of the doubt and let it grow alongside those oxeye daisies. So here in this corner, you can see that with the addition of some pots and some garden ornaments, it looks a whole lot better. I still have a few pots to fill. Those were full of tulips before, which have since been removed. My rosemary is not doing great, and that's because I think we're getting a little bit too much rain right now, and therefore this pot of lavender looks pretty bad too, but it's got new buds in it, so I'm hoping it'll revive. It has good drainage, so I don't know what the problem is, but you know lavender can be a real pain. This lavender, on the other hand, is doing pretty nicely, growing alongside these little thymes. And hypertufa, full of succulents, is always a beautiful thing to put out on your courtyard. I'm going to put sweet peas in this and let them climb up this cast iron teepee. So even though it's still very rustic looking, that's what I want it to be. It looks a lot better, and when I get those succulents to fill in all these little crevices, that'll be something that will continue to grow and spread through the years, and I won't have to worry about those empty sections anymore. So I think it turned out pretty nicely all in all, the entire picture. a little courtyard. This was an old patio that somebody laid back in 1964 or some such date. It's marked somewhere on this patio. And of course it was all cracked and nasty, and we started to remove the cracked parts and replace them with brick. So it's still very old-fashioned looking, but we were able to incorporate old brick with old concrete, and the result is rather interesting, I would say, but perfect for this old house. This house was built, I think, around 1908, and this is really the sort of thing that would have been here, aside from the concrete, but the brick would have been here. And now this is oregano, I believe. I wanted to put nice smelling things next to this old bench, and this was a chippy old bench. I kept it that way for years, and then I decided I just really needed something bright here. So my husband sort of sanded it down. Oh, don't be shocked, but he did. He sanded it down. Believe me, it'll get chippy again. It's already doing it. And then we painted it this red, which is the same color as the trim on our house. But I wanted nice smelling herbs next to it, and that's why I put thyme, rosemary. I have this oregano, and in there I've got basil seeds that are coming up. And this is lemon balm, which is best in a pot, as I said, unless you want to cover a field with it. Better plant it in a pot, because it will spread. This is called a chase tree. Beautiful blue spires of flowers grow on this in a couple weeks. And then we have paths. I love garden paths. This path leads to another garden entirely. And there's the pergola with all that wisteria that enables me to make the woven basket fences. And so we have two of them here. One with phlox and foxgloves and violets and little daisies. This one has coneflowers, phlox, a rose bush, which is just starting to come up. And these are the evening primrose pink. This is a flower that is a perennial. It also drops a gazillion seeds. All the evening primrose yellow on this property I got from a couple little plants at a sale where I was buying strawberries. Came home with about, I don't know, half a dozen primrose plants, and now they're everywhere. This is the other side of the garden. And I've got the cardboard laid down. I'm going to put compost on top of that and fill the center with cosmos, annual cosmos seed, just to fill this garden in. This is a small lilac bush. Montauk daisy. And this is the dry creek. It's filling up with weeds right now, but we're going to have to get in there and pull them. We've had all this rain, so the water's just sort of sitting here, but that was the purpose of this dry creek. And on this hill, I'm working on a new garden. I've run out of compost, but I will be covering that, and that will be a huge cutting garden for me. So all in all, I'd say that this was rather a successful little renovation here. So you really can take an ugly spot in your yard and turn it into something unique. The beautiful daylilies, which I used to take for granted, no longer. I don't really like the color orange, but I have to confess that bright splash of orange at this time of year is really dramatic and a nice backdrop for everything else. So take a little spot in your yard that you don't like and turn it into something special. From Hopalong Hollow, this is Jerry.